I tested out every single augment combination in Deadshot, and I found some mind-blowing combinations of game mechanics, Deadshot augments, and other perk augments that will allow you to deal over 100,000 damage per second to special and boss enemies, allowing you to kill special enemies in less than 2 seconds. I've got some game-changing stats and graphs all in an effort to figure out exactly what all of the Deadshot augments actually do. So get ready to change the way you play Black Ops 6 Zombies forever. As always with these analytical videos, be sure to check the video chapters so that way you can jump to your favorite parts or skip to the end for the final results. But believe me, the story behind each of these tests is very important to know. And the story I have for this Deadshot testing is going to be mind-blowing. So let's start with the base Deadshot perk. What does it do? The description says it improves your ADS precision and increases your critical damage. Now I know we're all excited about the breakdown of the increase in critical damage, however, I want to go over the ADS precision first because it's a lot simpler. When I heard ADS precision, I thought, oh, it's an increase or a decrease in recoil, making your gun more accurate. So I got a KSV and I shot a wall here, aiming at the same point, going up without Deadshot here, and as you can see, with Deadshot, without Deadshot, looks pretty similar to me. Started at the red line, went all the way up basically to this red line, you can kind of see the width is about the same. If anything, the recoil kind of looks worse with Deadshot. So I don't think Deadshot helps with recoil, so I thought what else could that possibly could mean? And I thought it could mean a reduction in idle sway, so I got myself a sniper rifle, again without Deadshot here. I started aiming right at the top of the red line right here, and as you can see in motion, it kind of doesn't look like there's that big of a difference, if there's any difference at all. However, if you look really closely here, especially on this left-hand side, this left one actually reaches past this first little tick here, this first little marker, both on the above and the below over here. At some point in time, it like touches that red marker right there, whereas on the right side with Deadshot, if you're looking over here, we never really pass anywhere close to that first tick. So from what I can tell, doesn't reduce your recoil, but it does slightly improve your idle sway. Pretty easy, nothing too crazy so far. Now this is the stuff you're waiting for here. How much does base Deadshot actually increase your critical damage? Pretty simple. I took 3 different weapons here, 3 different weapon classes too. I took the Jackal SMG, the PU-21 LMG, and the Siren special weapon. I thought that was a good kind of mix of weapons here. We have our base body and headshot damage and the multiplier. And because I didn't know exactly how it worked, I thought, oh, maybe it just increased the multiplier. But as you could see in these numbers, it just does a straight 10% damage increase to your headshot. It's really that simple, at least for now. And while we're here, we can talk a little bit about our first 2 augments, Dead Head and Dead First. Dead Head will further increase your headshot damage, and Dead First will double your critical damage if the enemy is at full health. And so on my preliminary testing here, we can see that is very much true, with the slight increase coming at a 15% increase, 15.5% increase. That's actually pretty consistent. It's a weird number, but it has been 15.5% increase over your base headshot damage. And of course, the double damage here is actually double, but it's important to note this double damage is versus your base headshot damage, not your base headshot damage with Deadshot, if that makes sense. Without Deadshot, you have your headshot damage right here. With the double damage Deadshot, it's doubling your base damage, not doubling the Deadshot base damage. You guys get it. You guys are smart. You understand. And of course, we've got a graph down here. We've got our base damage here. You can see our slightly increased base damage, and all the different weapons here are slightly more increased damage. And then we've got the double damage right here. Clearly way more damage than any of these guys. However, there is so many more ways that these Deadshot augments interact with other perks and other augments. It's actually freaking mind-blowing, so be sure to stick around. It's a long talk, so I want to get through all of the other augments first. So on a surface level, recapping here, base Deadshot, 10% damage, the slight increased Deadshot, 15.5% increase, and the double Deadshot is completely doubled for a full health zombie. Our next augment is going to be Dead Again, the most unpopular major augment of Deadshot here. This has critical hits have a chance of adding a bullet to your magazine. This one was very interesting to test, because when you're testing this, you have to make sure that your bullet is only hitting 1 headshot at a time. If you have 2 zombies lined up and you shoot through their heads, you are technically, that bullet is hitting 2 headshots, so there's a higher chance of getting that effect, this Deadshot effect here. So I had to make sure that every shot I was shooting was only shooting 1 critical shot at a time. So I got the LR762, I played on directed mode, and I tried my very best to get a 100% accurate magazine shot into critical headshots of all the zombies. It was incredibly stressful and very tedious to do. But then from there, I knew the LR762 in my zombie build had 10 shots in the magazine, and so I counted 10 shots out, and then once I was done with 10, any shots remaining in the magazine were bonus shots that I got through this Deadshot Augment. You following me so far? And so that's where this chart comes into play here. This is the sniper. These are how many shots we fired. These are how many times I shot it. I fired 10 shots, critical shots. I still had 2 remaining. 10 shots, I had 2 remaining. If we count all of these up, we had 21 bonus ammo, 21 bonus rounds, and a total of 100 shots fired, which gives us a very beautiful number of 21%. And in all honesty, I'm really confident that this is just 20%. I love it when I test something out and it gives me a nice clean number, like a 20% number, because that just makes perfect design sense. But what's really fascinating, what's kind of mind-blowing about this little augment here is that it does not need to be critical kills. This just says critical hits have a chance of adding bullets to your magazine. So that means if you have a horde of zombies and you shoot into the horde, that one round is hitting multiple zombies and potentially multiple critical hits. It means the more penetration your bullet does, the more chances it has to hit more skulls, to hit more headshots, to have a higher percentage of getting you more ammo. And so that's exactly what I did here with the DM10 and the AEK. With the DM10, it was single fire, so I just shot 25 shots into the horde. With the AEK, I had a 45 round magazine and it's a burst fire, so I just counted off whatever that is, like 15 bursts total into the horde. And you could see we have a much larger percentage of rounds fired versus the shots remaining once you start collateraling the zombies. And then when you combine that with the awesome FMJ findings that we had last week, it means if you're running low on ammo and you don't need a whole lot of headshot damage, running dead again, this augment could be really beneficial for you. I mean, seriously, DM10, getting half of your bullets back because you're just shooting into the horde is awesome. It's truly insane how effective this augment was. I just had a stupid smile on my face the entire time testing this because this is so powerful. It's unfortunate that it has to compete with stuff that just increases your DPS because a lot of people, like myself, are probably just going to pick that over this. But if you want to experiment, this is very effective. Hit it up with that FMJ attachment. It's going to be an insane combination. But moving on to our very first minor augment here, we're going to have Dead Break. Dead Break is going to increase damage to armor pieces. Very important. This does not increase damage to armored zombies themselves. You're not dealing any more damage to the armored zombies. I tried to check it out. That's kind of what I expected. I expected that blue number to go up as you were getting shots on the armor, but that's actually not the case here. This augment actually substantially decreases the amount of shots it takes to break armor. And of course, the way I tested this was in directed mode with the Ames assault rifle. What I did was I counted shots on all of the light armored zombies, both to their chest and to their head. I counted the shots it took to break the chest plate of a mangler as well as the helmet of a mangler. I did that for the Ames in the gray rarity, the green rarity, the blue rarity, and then I pack-a-punched it to get the pack-a-punch 1 blue rarity. And then I did all of that again with Deadshot equipped. And yet again, just like our other augment, this was really darn effective. As you can see here, this is our base damage without Deadshot here, taking 38, yes, I had to count out 38 shots multiple times just to make sure I was right, of destroying the chest plate of a mangler. And then it took 19 shots to destroy the head. You'll kind of notice that the heads will actually decrease or be broken in half the amount of shots that it takes to get the body destroyed, which I think is a really nice detail. Good way to check your work too when you're testing out these sorts of things. But then with Deadshot, we have 31 shots down here. You can see the decrease over here. And then down here, we have the difference percentage. So this is just the percent of shots it actually saved up. Now, I'm a little bit of two minds on this. It's very apparent that armor has a hidden health bar behind it, because whether you're using Deadshot or you're using the base version, those blue numbers will be the same no matter what, because those blue numbers are how much health you're dealing to the zombie rather than how much health you're taking away from the armor, because why in the world would players need to know how much damage they're doing to the armor itself rather than to the enemy, right? The reason I say this is because I thought maybe I could figure out how much health, quote unquote health, each armor piece had by taking the shots that it took and then multiplying it by the damage that I was dealing. But then I realized that would just be the same as has this percentage down here, and it really wouldn't matter. You wouldn't figure out the same, like a percentage is still a percentage, whether it's a percentage of health that I just made up or a percentage of armor breaks or shots to kill that I just made up. It just, if anybody can figure that out in my brain just couldn't figure it out. So if we could somehow reverse engineer the health, quote unquote, of the armor, please let me know. But I honestly don't think there is, nor do I really think we need to at this point, because we take the average of all of this stuff here, we get an average of 16.5% less shots it takes for you to break the armor. However, statistically speaking, I'm going to take this number here as the most accurate number. In fact, I'd be confident to say that it's more so the 15 to maybe 20% decrease because of how little damage we're dealing to the armor when we just have a gray rarity weapon. This data set right here, this 38 to 31, is probably going to give us the most accurate percentage here. And since this number is approaching 20%, I'm going to predict for myself that it's about 20%, but I'm going to say it's like between 15 and 20%. But yet again, very, very strong minor augment to do here, especially with the manglers at high rounds, especially with the armored zombies at the high rounds. If you want to use your weapon, which Deadshot really is all about using your weapon, this is my preferred minor augment, even though these other minor augments are pretty darn effective too. For example, Dead Draw will reduce your hipfire spread. So as you can see, we have our crosshairs right here of our LR762, and then I equipped Deadshot right here. And as you can see, going back and forth between these two, it's a pretty substantial difference. And then I also got the Akimbo GS45s off of the wall here. I got this little crosshairs here, and then I added Deadshot on, and you can see it really does make quite a bit of a difference. I did go into Photoshop here and I tried to measure out the pixels. I tried counting pixels here in Photoshop and trying to find out a percentage. And what I found was it reduces this number by about 30%. But I think the game uses something weird like milliradians or something to measure the crosshairs or the hipfire spread in game. So I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I'm going to say it's 30%. And yes, that percentage also goes for the GS45, which means I can confidently say it is just a straight, 30%. I'm going to go 30% decrease in your hipfire spread, which is really effective, especially if you're going for hipfire kills. But now we need to talk about Dead Set. This claims to reduce gun movement while doing advanced movement. What's advanced movement? What's gun movement? I didn't even know what gun movement was. So because the base Deadshot improves your ADS precision by reducing your idle sway, my theory is that this reduces your idle sway as you're sliding, diving, jumping around. And so here I have a slowed down version of a slide that I have, again, with Deadshot, without Deadshot. I'm going to keep playing this over and over for you here, because I don't know if I'm seeing anything. I don't know if it's just in my brain. In game, it could have been a placebo, but I really did kind of feel like this augment did reduce the amount of sway or bobble or wobble or kind of visual sway or movement here that we have as we're sliding and all this stuff. But I mean, here's, that's the raw gameplay footage. Here's some more gameplay footage. This is without the Deadshot augment right here. You can see I'm kind of jumping, bouncing around here. And then with the Deadshot augment, you can kind of see, I don't know, did that look a little bit more stable? Here you go. Here's another look here. I'm just going to slide. And I feel like the center of my screen's a little bit better, but I'm just not entirely sure. Like if you look right where the front iron sight is, you could kind of see this is without Deadshot again. Without Deadshot, it kind of seems like it's kind of going all over the place, right? You could kind of see it bop down, and then you got this a little bit, but then with Deadshot, when you look straight at that front iron sight, I don't know. Like, is that a little bit more straight? Is that a little bit, I don't know. I'll be honest. This is the one thing that I kind of am putting my hands up and asking you guys for some help with. What could this possibly mean? Could this mean like actually reducing this sway here? Do I need to test jumping and all this stuff? But in all honesty, if it does help increase your stuff while you're PhD flopping and you're jumping and you're doing all that, I don't know how valuable that is, especially compared to the incredible stuff that we just went over. And especially the stuff that we're about to go over, because this is the mind-blowing stuff here. So we've talked about all of the other augments here. Let's rewind back to the very first two augments. Deadhead, that further increases your critical damage, and Dead First, that doubles your critical damage if the enemy is at full health. This is a chart that I forgot to show you here. This graph is the zombie health right here. You can see it coming up to about 50,000 where it naturally stays, and that's the health cap. These lines are correctly labeled here, hopefully, to the damage per second, of all of these weapons. You can see we have a base weapon, so that's without Deadshot, and then we have a Deadshot, which is that very first 10%, and then we have a Deadshot increase, which is that dead head further increasing Deadshot damage. That's going to be that 15.5% that we talked about in this chart right here. And what's really cool, you can kind of just plug in, if we have like rapid fire here on the Jackal, you can kind of see these lines moving up and down here, kind of see how cool and how big of a difference rapid fire makes on your weapons, which is really nice. Let's go ahead and put rapid fire here on the PU-21 here. Look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. You can get some serious damage per second. And then unfortunately the Siren doesn't have rapid fire here, but you could see at its very most, it's doing 59,000 damage per second, which is the highest of all of these weapons here. But as I was testing these augments, I was like, you know what, it's nice to test them against headshots, but you can get critical kills with a lot more than just headshots. So as you can see here, I went ahead and tested all three of these weapons against special enemies and boss zombies and so much more. This is the stuff that gets mind-blowing here, so pay attention. Something you'll notice is that the special enemies, which are manglers in this case, they have the same increase or the same effect as Deadshot with a normal headshot, which is what you would expect. However, the Abomination, at least here on Liberty Falls, you actually get a bonus modifier of damage here against the Abomination. Not sure why, but you do deal more damage in all cases, in all situations. But again, you can clearly see here's our base Deadshot with no augments. You can see the double augment is going to count double, at least for a zombie that's on full health. However, you'll notice that I actually cannot get these for the special enemies because, like I said, this was done way before Citadel de Mor was out, so we didn't have the Doppelgast. I only had the Manglers, and the Manglers wear helmets which don't count as critical shots. So that means that, at least on Manglers, you can never get that double Deadshot benefit. And furthermore, you could never get that benefit on any armored zombie whatsoever. I know this double damage is going to look insane, especially as we continue down and show you the stuff that I need to show you. But practically speaking, when you're in those higher rounds on rounds 30, 40, whatever, and you're shooting into the horde, most of that horde is going to take some sort of damage. Half of them are going to be armored. Half of them you're going to shoot already because you're just spraying into the horde. The amount of time you're actually utilizing the double damage is very minimal. Maybe, potentially, if you're having a sniper rifle with a very slow rate of fire, if you have a shotgun potentially, maybe that's where you want to run this double Deadshot augment. But personally, I would say that this Deadshot augment, especially now that we know that Dead Again and those critical hits actually give you ammo back and a lot of ammo back, I'm going to go as far as to say that this double damage augment with Deadshot is the worst augment in the entirety of Deadshot. And I don't even know what Dead Set does, so that sounds a lot, that means a lot. But our story is not done, because as I was doing this testing, I thought, you know what? What else interacts with critical damage? Well, I know that elemental effects have effects on at least special and boss zombies, so I wonder if something like Napalm Burst on Manglers and Abominations would actually increase or change with the Deadshot augments. And I gotta say, yes, they do. Take a look at how much more damage we're getting with these base Manglers here. Just with regular Deadshot, we're getting nearly 6,000 damage on a Mangler compared to the 3,600 damage we were doing without Deadshot entirely. That is an insane difference. With the Siren, you keep an eye on the Siren because these numbers are actually insane. I couldn't believe it when I was testing this. 10,000 damage with just Napalm Burst. Now it has a really slow rate of fire, but that is an insane amount of damage. 11,000 damage to an Abomination. That's crazy. And then when you look at the increase augment here, you're dealing nearly 12,000 damage, 8,000 damage, 7,000 damage. Oh yes, here is the percentage difference here. Obviously with the base Deadshot, you're getting that 10%. With the increase, you're getting that 15.5% like we talked about here. Very consistent across all the weapons here. I feel very good about this data set. And then when you add in Napalm Burst, look at these numbers. That's insane. 65% compared to 10%. Napalm Burst giving you a 55% increase in damage against special and boss zombies is insane. 200%. Now, yes, it's the double shot. So like this one shot here, this 12,000 damage compared to your 36. Yes, it's like 200% more or whatever here, this 4,000 damage. But remember, this double is just for one shot and one shot alone. And boss zombies tend to have like millions of health points. So in all honesty, that's actually not that crazy or not that impressive. And this does compound with the the increased Deadshot Augment here, 74% increase in damage. This is already mind-blowing. If you're not using the proper ammo mod for the right enemy. Now, again, this is just Napalm Burst on Manglers and Abominations. I don't know if it works similarly, but I would be willing to bet Deadwire works on Amalgams. I'd be willing to bet that Doppelgas are weak to Lightman, so I'm sure this will be very similar. So if you're not already doing that, go ahead and do that, because that alone is going to get you at least 50 to 55, if not more percentage damage points just by doing that alone. Except we are not done yet, because Elemental Pop has an augment that further increases your damage with the elemental effects against these enemies. And so when I put on, I think it's called Vulnra Bean here, the damage numbers are, oh my goodness, look at that. It's a monstrosity. Look at that. 7,000 damage. 7,000 damage with the Jackal when we were originally doing 3,000 damage. We what's the percentage, Donuts? What's the percentage? 92%, nearly every single aspect. With all of these combinations, you are getting nearly double damage when pairing up Elemental Pop's Vulnra Bean and the Elemental Effect and Deadshot all together. You see some pretty crazy numbers here, 14,000, 15,000, 20,000 damage from a single shot of the Siren here. Again, really slow rate of fire, and that is the double damage. That is just for one bullet. Granted, still a whole heck of a lot of damage, so it's there if you want it, but compared to that, one bullet to 13, maybe 14,000 damage every single bullet after that, that is incredible. If I'm using a weapon and I want to actually use that weapon into the high rounds, there is no other combination. I'm using the Deadshot with the further increased critical damage, that Deadhead Augment. I'm using the element that they're weak to, and I'm using Vulnra Bean because it's getting me double damage, straight up double damage without needing to do anything across the board. It's actually insane. To put this into perspective here, to put it into more practical terms, let's show you here. I've got a damage per second calculator here. We could put in our rate of fire and our damage here. I did it for the Jackal here. We did our base rate of fire, base damage just right here. We get a damage per second of 41,100, whatever. Now at health cap, a zombie's gonna have 50,000 health points, 150 is the special, the boss is gonna have 1.5 million. So this is how long it's, let me zoom in. This is how long it's gonna take for you to kill these enemies with this damage and rate of fire. Now, if we take this boss damage here, we put in 40, 46, you could see no Deadshot. Our Jackal here is gonna kill an amalgamation or an abomination in 32 seconds. That's pretty pathetic. With our base Deadshot, we're gonna be able to kill them, let's see, that in about 29 seconds. But of course, if we decide to combo everything up, put a Napalm Burst, a Vulnra Bean here, 8178, we've got that nearly halves it in 16 seconds. Killing an abomination and amalgamation at health cap, round 100, round 300, round 900 in 16 seconds is pretty darn impressive. Killing a Mangler, killing a Doppelgast in less than 2 seconds at health cap is insanity. If you're not using this combination, what are you doing? What game are you playing? Remember that video I came out with where I said the guns are too weak? Yeah, I'm gonna need to revisit that with Deadshot because my goodness, my mind is blown. My hands are up. I've been wrong. I'm sorry, Treyarch. This is insanity. Now, we are just talking, especially with these, Napalm Burst and Elemental Pop, we are just talking about these special and boss zombies here. This damage per second, which is, look at that, that's almost 93,000 damage per second. That is actually not going to affect zombies at all. Zombies are going to be capped at this base headshot damage here, or this increased headshot damage right here, because they don't have an elemental weakness. They can't benefit from either Napalm Burst or Elemental Pop. So they are going to be stuck here. Let's, do that one right there because that's the one I like. So again, you're going to be killing a zombie about every second, which is what I found in that one video. So there is still validity to that video. But in terms of your damage against bosses, in terms of your damage in this Napalm Burst and Elemental Pop and Deadshot Augment combination, this has been an insane finding to me. I apologize if this was just like, yeah, Donuts, duh, but it just absolutely blows my mind here. If we take the Siren's 500 rate of fire, we put in that 13, 6, 12 there right here, you're killing a boss zombie at health cap in 13 seconds. The PU-21 with rapid fire at this damage right here, Elemental Pop, increased Deadshot, Napalm right here, again, 13 seconds, you're doing 111, nearly 112,000 damage per second to special enemies and boss zombies at health cap. I don't know. I don't know how to make it any more clear than that. That's insane. Do you see why I left this for the end? It's crazy. But let's recap. Number 1, base Deadshot reduces your idle sway and gives you a 10% increase in critical damage. Number 2, Deadhead further increases your critical damage to 15.5%. Dead First does exactly what it says. It doubles the critical damage at an enemy at full health, which means this will not work on manglers and it will not work on armored zombies. Number 3, Dead again gains more ammo than you think. About 20% of your shots, if they're critical, will give you a bonus shot, and shooting into the hordes getting collaterals is going to get you even more ammo. Pair it with FMJ, it's going to be awesome. Number 4, Dead Break decreases shots to break armor by about 15 to 20%. Number 5, Dead Draw substantially reduces hipfire by about 30%. Dead Set looks like it decreases idle sway as you're doing movement, but I'm going to need your guys' help for some clarity. I don't know exactly how to test that out. If you've learned nothing, stop running Dead First. It's only gonna help with one zombie at a time. Once you start shooting into the hordes, it's not gonna matter. It doesn't work on armored zombies. It doesn't work on manglers. It's not worth it. Instead, use Deadhead, because this gets you a 15.5% increase for all zombies all the time and all bosses all the time. And finally, you have to use the elemental weakness and elemental pop with Vulnra Bean in order to get nearly free double damage on all special and boss zombies. The right combinations can get you hundreds of thousands of damage per second. This spreadsheet will be in the description if you want to check my numbers or use it for your own stats and testing. This test seriously changed the way I play zombies. I really hope no other augment video takes as much time as this, but this was absolutely mind-blowing and I hope it was worth the wait. I hope it was worth the long video. It was incredibly fun. If you want more stats and more dissecting of how the game all works, be sure to check out this video and stay beautiful.